um, I'll let you go with this one. All right. So we've seen the 49ers play for 2 weeks. Clearly, two victories. However, there's been some question marks, I think. What questions do you have about this team, Jack, after watching these last two games?
If they get stuck in games like they were, where they're in situations where Garoppolo's not able to get the ball down the field, like yesterday, where he's missing the throws down the field, and it becomes a dink and dunk type of game, like what we saw yesterday, is that repeatable over and over again? It's a question that I had of him last year when he came back and he won those games against the Rams and New England. And then we saw what happened in week 3 of that. So if they're not able to get that going, is that something that they're going to be able to have success with throughout the course of the season? That would be question number one for me. Uh, Question number two is, what are you going to do with this running back room? The 49ers have got to run the ball in order for them to be successful. I don't think Garoppolo can carry them for multiple weeks. So how are you going to fix that up now? You got to have one healthy running back. What are you going to do there? So that's your second one. Um, when is George Kittle going to break out? When's he going to make a big play? When's George Kittle going to step up? He I'm going to leave that at that when it comes to George Kittle for right now. When it comes to the defensive side of the ball, um, can the interior start to stop the run? They did it for a short period of time yesterday, but they've got to be able to do that over and over again for them to be successful this year. I think those are some of the main questions.
I think one more question is, are these cornerbacks going to be able to hold up when the quality of receiver goes up?
I'll change that. I'm going to change that for you because I think the bigger key there is, because that's a great question that I should have thought about. Are the cornerbacks going to be able to hold up when they start facing good quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks, yeah. And, especially in the NFC West, you're going up against Lockett, who's having a phenomenal season. Metcalf, who we know is a stud. Obviously, D-Hop, who's lighting the world on fire. Kyler Murray, to me, is the runaway favorite for MVP. After 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, I think, and then I think that you touched on everything, and then the last thing I think was just the cornerback thing. The good thing that I don't have questions with now is DeMeco Ryans' ability to make adjustments. That was a question after week 1 that I had, and his ability, like the fact that he looked at tape and basically crumpled up the piece of paper in the playbook that said wide 9 and just threw it away, I think is a really good sign, because one thing about Shanahan that people talk about is his stubbornness, to kind of like go out of what he's used to doing and whatnot. To see DeMeco Ryans completely change the scheme and be able to have the defense play as well as they did with new pieces. Obviously Drake Greenlaw wasn't there, Barrett and Mosley weren't there, and to have them still perform at a high level against a team that put up 40 points, in the previous week, I think that that's one question that was answered for me within the 2 weeks. But questions for me, I think the biggest thing are going to be that cornerback. If Lenore goes down, then what do we do, right? So, yeah. And then the running back room, I'm not as worried about the running back room because I didn't know who Mitchell was. And he came out and, turned out to be a superstar, or do really, really well. I didn't know who Matt Breida was. And all of a sudden he came out and started, what? There's this guy named Raheem Mostert I had no idea about. And he came out. I just think that Kyle Shanahan does really well with these running backs. And I think that these guys are going to come in and do well. You're seeing it in Baltimore right now, right? I thought that their running game was going to just go to trash because all their starters were down and out, but they're still having a very solid running game. Obviously, they have this guy named Lamar Jackson that helps out a lot, but even their running backs, I think, are still doing pretty solid jobs. So I think that's one position, if we are going to have injuries, that you can find replacements that could still be very effective. Cornerback, on the other hand, that's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, Yep. No, those are all really good points. And I think the other piece is, the 49ers defense has played pretty good against some bad teams, and we talked about this. I think it might have already been one of our questions or the one you mentioned, but the next 3 weeks are going to show how good they really are, because they're going to be facing Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and then Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is the one that he brings a totally different dynamic to the field than those first two.
Yeah. And for me, I think we have to see the team go 2-1 in this 3-game stretch to really, believe that this team can, be a playoff contender and, really win out this season and, be one of the top teams in the NFC. In my mind, at least, 2-1 or really, really close competitive games that came down to, a last-second field goal or, some bad luck here and there. What about you? What do you need to see out of these next 3 games, out of the 49ers for you to be comfortable with the team?
No, I think you're right. I think a 3-1 record or 2-1 record over these next 3 is going to be a good mark. I think, Green Bay, if you're watching what Green Bay is doing tonight, their offense is doing pretty good against Detroit, but their defense really isn't doing a whole lot. Right. And so I think you're looking at, the defense is going to be stressed next week. The offense is going to be able to have to come out and play better. If they can go 2-1, they're going to be. I'll tell you what. If they go 2-1, 49er fans are not going to like it because they lost to. They're probably going to lose to either the Seahawks or the Cardinals. That's my guess. And it's going to be all about not being able to win the NFC West. That's my guess, just based off of what I've heard from them over the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but one thing that we did, end this on a positive note, Jack, we did talk about the 49ers to be contenders in the NFC West have to be able to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And to come out and beat Detroit, to come out and beat Philly, I know Grant put up a tweet saying when we looked at the schedule, we all expected the 49ers to be 2-0 after this. So why are we celebrating? Well, we've thought a lot of things about the 49ers in the past, what they should be, and they didn't get there. To actually see expectations be matched, I think is something to be excited about. They were gritty games. They found ways to win, even though not all cylinders were, going at the same time. And to win in the NFL is tough. To win in the NFL on the road, away from your family for 2 weeks, I think this could have been a trap game. And I think the 49ers responded really, really well against a young team that has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. So to me, it was a very impressive victory in the sense that it needed to be done. They did it, and it was never really in doubt that the 49ers were going to win this game. Even though the score was low and it ended up being, a 6-point game, I never really felt like the 49ers were going to lose the game. I don't know if you felt that same way.
No, I don't know. The way that, as I was watching the game, the way that I felt about it was that there was definitely some nervousness in that first half, even throughout that most of that first half, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was like I said, I keep saying on Twitter, was they just needed to weather the storm. I even wrote that in my article after the game. They weathered the storm. They got through that really hard part of the game, which was the intensity from the Philadelphia fans for their home opener, all that kind of stuff. And they just kind of weathered the storm. And then they just went out and they took care of business. And that's something that we've seen it from Shanahan's team in 2019. It's something that we saw for over and over and over again in 2011 and 2012 and 2013 from those Harbaugh teams. Mm-hmm. So as I watched that game, I just, I didn't really get too frustrated with a lot of it. There was definitely some frustration with some of the quarterbacking play, but I never really felt like it was in doubt until, second half, the 49ers blew it and kind of opened it up, and you felt pretty good once they got up 14-3.
Right. So what Jack is basically saying is the 49ers are going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's our show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.